Thank you for having me. So, short background, I have a PhD in organic chemistry from Uppsala. Short visit to UK for a postdoc, and then I got back to Uppsala again. And mainly a chemist, and that is a key point here. I'm a scientist. But part-time, I work with managing the ELN system at Uppsala University, and that is one of many research closed systems. We have another bunch of systems also gathering data. Maybe some of you in the clinical side here have heard about REDCap, research data capture systems, and so on. So we're on to that as well. But today I'm here to talk about the ELN system, a little bit about our experiences with that. I met this guy, Andy Mott, back in 2003. That was when I did my diploma work at Biovitrum at the time in this house. He was sitting here and I had my lab there. He was one of the pioneers with the ELN lab notebook developed here in Uppsala and Stockholm with Contour AB. He went on with all the way to Biovia and a field application engineer. At the time, he's retired now. I haven't met him since. He didn't allow me to use the blood notebook at the time, which we will come back to on my very last slide. I was a student, and I felt a bit sorry. I was taking notes on my paper. The other guys in the lab, a little bit higher in the hierarchy, they worked with the notebook. I didn't. So what is research data? So research data, information collected or generated in research product, forms the basis for publishing the results. Everything that we write, take notes of in a research lab is research data. And it comes in all kind of different ways, but everything is data. Being a Swedish authority, working in a lab at a university, there is so many laws that we need to apply to. There are laws to companies as well, but we feel restricted from time to time, to be honest, because we are scrutinized and we need to have this transparency. We cannot hide anything, and we need to hand out the data. We have not only this tryckfrihetsförordning, not sure what it is in English, but it's basically a transparency law that has been around for 250 years to anti-corruption, so people from the general public can go into the authorities and see what they're doing. To the archive law that forces us to keep good order in our documentation. And now, not sure if I put it here. Yes, this one, that came last year. To 2022-2023, the official governance law about making data available for the general public. And that sounds very Swedish in a sort of way, but it's not. It comes directly from the European Union as from a Horizon project. That sort of resulted in open science and open data and open access. And now it has been implemented into Swedish law regarding keeping the data available. So there is a lot of things forcing us to keep law and order in our data collection. So how are we doing? Well, we like to put like acronyms on things, and this is, have you seen this? FAIR principles. Some of you have, yes. So if you haven't, this is not particularly new, but it will be implemented now up until 2026 as an initiative from the Swedish Research Council. FAIR principles is findable, accessible, interoperable, and reusable. And if you want to go back to the very source, please find out this Nature publication down here. You can write about the European initiative about this in Horizon 2020. You can read about it on the Swedish National Data Service Center, and also a little bit from Uppsala University. How do you make data findable? How do you do these days? You publish it online, okay, but is it findable just because it is online? Then it's, I would say, accessible. That is online to me. But how do you find it? You search for it. How do you search for it? Well, you Google, most of the times. And what is Google good at? Indexing, exactly. So this is findable to me. And then the rest is what we do with it. That is when we have collected it. Interoperable, well, that is basically different fields, grabbing data from different fields, making a new field, or rebaking the data into something new. And that is reusable. So we talked about a little bit before lunch about cycle management, about product cycle management. This is data life cycle management. Data is also valuable. We don't pour it out the drain when we have published it. Well, we have done it for many, many years, but not anymore. Well, we have a few examples of good stuff, of course. Coming from Uppsala, of course, I want to highlight Carl von Linné's lab book from the 1700s. It's still available, but there are probably a few hundred books that are not available anymore because they got burned up, someone poured coffee on them, someone stole them, or something. I'm a radiochemist myself, so I'm a little bit biased. I would very much like to have Marie Curie's lab book in my hand. It's available also, but you had to have some lead-shielded glass to read it. So, and it's also expensive to have lab books. As pretty as they are, it's expensive to store books for hundreds of years. To put it in a little bit of a context, 40 books per meter, 1 inch per book. You can do the number crunching, I've done it for you, but basically 1 shelf meter of books is 18 megabytes. 18 megs is it's not much. So, from where I live to where I'm standing now, you will get a row of books, of lab books, on the point of your forefinger. So it's not so expensive to store the data anymore. It's about the accessibility. And how do you gain accessibility and indexing things? You need to have metadata. We'll talk about that later on. So, but how do you organize a organization that keeps a system like the ELAN system available? Well, you need to have some people around you. This is me, basically this little guy up there to the right, being the e-coordinator or part of the strategic management, the coordination team. I'm on the user side. We have also an IT side, working with IT specialists and IT governance, so to say. But it's important, at least in a large organization like Uppsala University, with like 5,000 employees and researchers, that we have these two sides represented. Maybe in a smaller company or smaller groups, it's fine just to have some Savitech guy sitting here on the left-hand side, dealing with the stuff. They can talk over lunch with these guys or the user guys here. But you really need to have a structured organization to manage so many people. We have 800 here at Karolinska Institute. They have 5,000 users. You need to have a stable team behind your systems. So that's a little bit of the management side. This is the IT structure we have. It's nothing complicated, but we have the clients, user computers, together with the experimentalists, connected to internet. We have some security authentication servers. We have a Windows application server talking to the Linux server where we run the Oracle database. Of course, we have some backup systems in case of something happens to this. We have also built a product exporter that can export data to our archive for long-term storage. We have also some test environments and a development environment. The uptime of those two are very short, so it's quite cost-effective, I must say. I want to put the numbers here. So we spend, together with the hardware and software and the team behind, around 1 million crown per year to run this service. Plus, so it boils down to 1,250 Swedish crowns per user, plus the license. You will negotiate the prices with this guy later on. He's a good guy. We have tough discussions. So, thinking big is good, but thinking correct is bigger. That is something that stands on the top border of the main building of Uppsala University. Att tänka stort, tänka fritt är stort, men att tänka rätt är större. So, what is thinking correct? Having the correct idea in your mind? Well, you need to have a critical mass to gain the momentum of using a system. And we will come to a little bit of the hurdle and talking to Göran, as we talked about before lunch. We need momentum to gain some oomph in this system, to get things going. And if everyone is going to hunt for their favorite, there will be no momentum. So, when we procured this system, we needed to have a critical mass of users. We identified them. There was a little bit of a higher decision in the hierarchy. We needed to have a reliable system provider, go into this nature thing you can track back. There are, I think, a handful of systems that has been available from 2003 and forward that are still existing. There are so many 5 men or women, for that matter, garage companies that sales up, look fantastic on a web page, and then they self-die within 2 years' time. We didn't want that. It costs too much to put your money on that kind of horses for a big company or big organization like us. So we really wanted something that had some good backtrack. It also happened that one of the major characters back in the days, Mats Helén, he was living in Uppsala, and it might have had an impact on the decision. I will not say anything more about that. Official procurement could be good. If you buy Italian helicopters, it's not good, then you will end up on the news. Oh, well, I shouldn't bring up all this stuff. But it's good when it works, but it's a real pain sometimes when you don't get what you want. So I'm telling you, if there are academics in the audience here, do your homework. Talk to colleagues in the field, or you will end up with this sort of 5-man garage companies that are, well, these are maybe 10 guys sitting in behind some of these. Security we talked about today. This is really important, integration with the IT system that we already have in place. When this was done, that was 2009, we were really, really happy having Oracle as the database provider for us. Then they changed a little bit of their, how would I say, structure or relation to the companies, to the customers, and we were the customers. And one day they did an audit, and they say, okay, look guys, you're breaching some stupid little agreements in your contract. And voila, 1 million crown in a fine. And well, Uppsala is a big university. Sometimes the left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing. So I think that happens not only once, but twice. And then the IT director say, okay, enough is enough. We don't have a good relation with Oracle company. Let's get rid of them. And sometimes the left hand doesn't know what the right hand is saying, because we ended up like the ELN system, obviously relying on this, big problem. And also the salary system was relying on Oracle, and it still is. So what happened when the IT director say, okay, Oracle is no longer a friend? The Oracle people left the building. They looked for other jobs. To put us in a little bit of a situation. It's not Technia's or Biovia's fault, or not even the source systems. We can have problems in our organization as well, but make sure you anchor your decisions well in the IT organization. Okay, we need to get moving. So, 2009, we did a common procurement with Karolinska and Uppsala and Umeå University. And that was with Contour, that was the sort of startup company with this that we talked about before, where I met Andy Mott back in 2003. It got bought up by Acceleris, that was bought up by Dassault Systems, and then Biovia formed somewhere along the lines. I got on the board here, and quite recently, Technia came in as the Nordic partner for Dassault Systems products, and as late as last year, we managed to close a deal. Finally, Niklas was part of it, and we have Atea as the license provider to Uppsala University. So we kind of take a small loop around the procurement system. I'm very honest here, I think. Do you record this? No? Okay. So how do you onboard? How do you onboard a university, or how do you onboard a group? With this, there is always one Göran in the back. This is this guy. I simply refuse to learn a new computerized system. Had too many of them already. But then we have also these other guys. Are you guys for real? Are you still using papers? So we should take advantage of the Savitech guys and take advantage of the early adopters. Find them in the group and take advantage of them. Sometimes they look for you, then it's easier. And if these people are the PI, the principal investigator, the group leader, it makes things easy. Otherwise, you need to convince the group leader. That is the number one person you should aim for. But take help of these other guys in the group. They are very useful. So you shall meet up with a PI together with one of the Savitech guys. That's a little bit, if you wonder about this profile, I'm a chemist, so this is an SN2 nucleophilic substitution reaction, and you have the transition state in the middle. It suits so well the progress also of adopting an ELN lab notebook. So it's uphill in the beginning. You really need to hold their hand so they are happy. It could be something as stupid as, okay, I'm not administrator on my own computer. I cannot even install the software. Okay, I have the wrong version of the web browser or something like this. Okay, simple issues, but if they go the sort of normal IT support way, they will get at least 15 different answers. Point them to one guy, and this happens to be me in our case. So now you have a pilot group of 3, 4, 5 people. Have reached the first transition state here. They are quite happy. It doesn't look so happy, but he is happy. And then it's downhill, and then it's time to move in to onboard the rest of the group. And that could be like a whole department of 50 persons, or it could be 4, 5, 6 more persons that are not so Savitech. Again, it's super easy, so super important to hold their hand, be available with the support, help them out. These guys have done the major job here, making templates and new workflows and new ways to think and pipe the work. But now they need to like what these guys have done. So make sure you hold their hand again, and then have a follow-up meeting around here when they really need to go over that little hurdle. And eventually, I actually haven't heard, well, we have 800 users in our place. We've had some problems with Mac users back in the day, but those problems are solved. But I mean, from a functionality point of view and workflow point of view, there are no problems. It's very intuitive to use this type of systems. Oh yes, I have a few more things here. This is quite important. Have mercy with last year PhD students if you're running a research group. if they are sort of going out of the system or of the university, taking their graduation soon, have mercy with them. And then have some mercy with the anti-tech persons. Let them scan their paper lab book, even if it takes them 20 minutes on a Friday afternoon. But then you have everything collected. That's the whole point, okay? Force all new group members into the ELN system. One example of where Uppsala University was the IT hub is a project called Enable 2. We had an Enable 1 as well. We're developing new antibiotics for new antibiotics. That's the bottom line here. And I think we were granted like 50 million crowns or so in the first round, and similar-ish funding in the second round. And there are several different universities applying to be part of this motor or this hub, where all these guys here collaborate together with their respective interest and expertise to develop drugs for these other products here. And because we had this system online, we were the IT hub, so everyone is using the ELN from all these different countries, and you can share the data very swiftly and very nicely online. So we're quite happy about this. This is one of the bigger user groups we have at the university. With part-time at least, there were over 80 users in the same consortium, so to say. So we talked about indexing before. This is the essence of it. Of course, you can index your normal manual lab book as well, but it takes time. I still have probably 5, 6, 7 of lab books where I have these 3 blank pages in the beginning. They are still waiting to be indexed by me with chemical formulas and so on. Of course, in a digital world, this is done automatically, and it's also very searchable. If you use templates, and you really should, that's a key feature of this type of software. You really put the boundaries of how you want your data to be squeezed into a system, avoiding mistakes when setting up an experiment. You save time by not letting all experimentalists, PhD students in this case, reinvent the wheel. A uniform way of documenting the experiments. In the end, it leads to some increased quality of the documentation. On top of that, we have regulatory compliance. If you add the risk assessment documents to the site or to the where you're actually doing the experiments. Search engine, again, connected to the indexing. If you cannot find the data, it becomes very, very difficult to publish. We had a guy at the organic chemistry department. He was from Japan, and one day he was gone. He kind of left. He got a position in Japan, and he left. And when gathering his lab books, he actually left the lab books, which was good, but he's written them in Japanese. So it was very, very difficult to sort of gather the data later on and to do some useful publication. We never heard from this guy again, but he got a position in Japan, so we know he exists. But yeah. So risk assessments we talked about a little bit. So this is a little bit of a boring part. Research ethics. How can we keep up? How can we avoid fake data and dishonest people? Well, we cannot guarantee they will never ever exist. There will be new Macarinis, there will be new people like this, but we can make it a little bit more difficult for them at least. So a very simple but quite effective thing we implemented at Uppsala is that you should submit your data. Submit is a function in this ELN system. Basically means you can no longer fiddle around with the data. You can no longer change it. You lock it. So if you lock your data before you send it away for peer reviewing, the data will be there when you get scrutinized by the peer reviewer. Very simple. So this is something we have really pushed for, so people actually do it. And then we will not end up in this boring news regarding the data got stolen the day after publication in Science. It puts Uppsala University in a bad reputation. It's not good. So IP rights, we'll not dwell too much about this, but if you document your stuff regarding IP rights, have your metadata at hand, of course you have good order in your data, it's easy to apply for patents. Offboarding process. So there is a local policy, and as connected to the archive law, we had the need to have data available for 10 years after the end of a research project, and after that it will be stored in the e-archive if it has lasting value for their own or other scientific field, significant value to scientific culture or personal history, or significant public interest. So who decides this? That is very interesting. Not part of the talk, but it's the legal people. They are not scientists, they are legal people working with document handling. But that's it. So when a researcher leaves the group, they can quite easily get a copy of their lab book on a clickable, Windows-friendly format, which is good. When a whole research group leaves the university, the data is exported to the archive and can be searchable. So that is a feature we very much appreciate in this. And now we'll send some wish lists to the Technia people here. So a mobile app to quickly upload photos. That is something I have gathered from my users. They see it as a low-hanging fruit. I know there has been initiatives to a mobile app long time ago and it's been ditched, but nevertheless I bring it up here again. People work in the deserts, far away from a Wi-Fi connection. They want to sit in the desert and collect data on scorpions, and then they want to press synchronize when they come back. Big wish list. We are forced to use this system. Hopefully there is no Clara associates here, but Clara is not the most user-friendly system. It's a chemical inventory system that all universities, as far as I know, use in Sweden. Of course, it would be quite nice to synchronize that with the ELN notebook, so you can just go in and pick what you have in the storage. You know where it is. You have even put it to yourself, so the system knows it's on your desk, and so on. But that's a little bit further on. So GraphPad, a couple of weeks ago, someone approached me and said, okay, why I used another ELN, we used GraphPad. Okay, I will pass it on. So now I do. Smooth handling of licenses. How would I say? Between academia and private sector. We have a lot of collaborations with private sector in the academia, but it's academic work. It's not private sector profitable work. It's academic research, but we do collaborations. So how do we deal with this? It's been a huge hurdle, to be honest, but it has been solved thanks to this guy. and we are really happy about this, actually. It has great added value for us as a university. But the last thing hasn't been solved. We have 20,000 experimental students in our labs, and I heard it at least 3 times per day, this day. Why are they so unprepared when they come out to the industry with these electronic systems? Well, we haven't got them. We buy them for, at least for us, expensive money, even if we could got some reasonable price. But for the teaching side, there is no money. It barely turns around, particularly in the experimental sciences. It's super expensive to run chemistry lectures at a Swedish university. So, with that low-hanging fruit, I will say thank you.